Chapter 776, A Red String. In the morning, the students in the Luotian Cultivation College were rushing about. There was lodging in the college. Only students like Lu Shu who lived in Luo City would go home every day. Most students decided to stay on campus. There was a bus route from Luo City to the Cultivation College, but it would take 45 minutes to reach the college. Thus, it was understandable that many students decided to stay on campus instead. The food in the Cultivation College was good. There were 4 canteens and each canteen had their own specialties. They opened at 6 a.m. and the Cultivation College students started to stream in. The hot pepper soup in Canteen 1 was the best. The youtiao one in Canteen 2 was delicious. The lunch in Canteen 3 was very generous, while you could eat chicken leg for dinner at Canteen 4. This was a summary that the students had come up with. Some students bought youtiao in Canteen 2 before running 1 kilometer to Canteen 1 to buy hot pepper soup or soybean milk. In the past, the Daoyuan class was very strict. But the rules were relaxed once they entered the Cultivation College. Everyone had become full-fledged warriors. Even the heavenly network was not as harsh as before. A student was eating a bun while walking along the corridors. Suddenly, he was shocked. Lord Lu is coming.
Shh!
Do you want to die? Ahem, Teacher Lu is here? His lesson is at 5 p.m. Why is he here so early? In the Cultivation College, students would attend cultural classes in the morning. They would only study their specializations in the afternoon. Lu Shu's course was an elective. It was compulsory for the combat specialization, but optional for the rest of the students. But there was a problem: no one expected that the entire school wanted to apply for this course. Everyone warned against taking this course as they were afraid of the dangers. But secretly, almost everyone had applied for the course. It was not that everyone was a masochist. To the students, Lu Shu was like a legend. Behind his dark history, he had fought countless battles. To be honest, Lu Shu had killed more people than they thought. The students could not understand how an expert had appeared among their generation. Of course, they did not know that Lu Shu had gone to the collection of gods alone. They did not know that he had entered the territory of the soldiers of the sea alone, and somehow killed the small white fish. To be honest, Lu Shu still did not understand why that small white fish was so weak. It was mysteriously eaten up by chaos. But even without these achievements, Lu Shu was now famous among the 7 major cultivation colleges. No one could see him as an ordinary student. Thus, there was an endless stream of students who applied for his course. The system almost crashed the previous night. But some students were very smart. They did not apply for the course, but they would sit in. After all, there were so many people. Who would be able to tell that they had not officially applied for this course? It was 5 p.m. The students were all supposed to go to their respective elective courses. There were many other elective courses, such as the art of war, the history of war, Western culture, appreciation of music, etc. But all the classrooms were empty. When the elective teachers walked into their classrooms, they thought that they had entered the wrong classroom. Why were there so few people? One teacher was dumbfounded. Where is everyone else? They have all gone to attend Lord Lu's first lesson. This happened to all the other electives. Lord Lu's first lesson had attracted the entire school population. All the students gathered in the training ground. There was almost not enough space for everyone. On the other hand, the elective teachers supplied Lu Shu with an endless stream of distress points. One of the teachers sighed and smiled. Then let's go and take a look. This teacher was tall. His glasses made him look like a scholar. There were many of such teachers in the Cultivation College, to the point that the students were used to it. Everyone was curious about how the heavenly network had recruited them. In reality, while they were preparing for the Cultivation College, Nie Ting had personally visited many teachers to invite them to leave the mountain area. He had to visit them multiple times before they were willing to come. As for those who fished for fame and compliments, they completely rejected the offer. This teacher was slightly helpless, but was not angry. He walked in front. A few students followed him to admire Lord Lu's elegance. When they reached the training ground, they were shocked. They saw 10,000 students silently sitting in the public square outside the training ground. There was no more space to sit in the training ground. Only Lu Shu was walking around. He passed by every single student. He had an A4 piece of paper that said, "Come, scan the QR code and we can be friends." From Hu Xiaonian's distress, plus 199. Mr. Hu Xiaonian was dumbfounded. Was Lu Shu really teaching? As Lu Shu was walking, he suddenly saw Coral beside him. He was dumbfounded. He took a deep breath and said, "Come, scan the QR code and we can be friends." Okay. Coral smiled and nodded her head. She scanned the QR code and they brushed past each other. The students had really wanted to see how Lu Shu would react when he walked past Lural. But everyone was disappointed. It was as if they were really strangers. They had come here for nothing. Many people had attended this course to see this happen. Suddenly Chen Zuan was dumbfounded. Coral took off the tab. Have they truly broken up? No, said Cheng Qiuqiao with a determined look. I saw her yesterday. When I took a closer look, she was still wearing the tab. But today, it's gone. Do you see that red string around her neck? Chen Zuan looked. He thought about it and recalled that Coral had not been wearing anything around her neck until now. After all, Coral's skin was pale. The red string was very striking against her complexion. She might have attached the tab to the string around her neck, said Cheng Qiuqiao confidently. They were like professional gossipers who discussed affairs that had nothing to do with them. All the young people nowadays were the same. They sat in class and wrote notes to one another. They talked about gossip. They would even write out lyrics. Thinking back, they seemed very boring, but back then, they always enjoyed it. This was the meaning of youth. Everyone in this cultivation college would become the backbone of the forces that protected this land. They would have to face blood and swords, as well as sacrifices and choices, but right now, they could still bask in the sunlight. It was as if their youth would never end. Chapter 777, Great Battle. Lu Shu held the QR code and allowed everyone to be his friend. This was also the first time Lu Shu knew that there was a limit on the number of friends one could have. He could only have 5,000 friends. In the past, when Lu Shu looked at his timeline, it seemed as if he could have countless friends. If not, how could Weibo 1 maintain its business? But reality seemed to be rather harsh. When Lu Shu saw that he had reached the maximum number of friends, he was slightly annoyed. With this, his long journey to lead by example had ended just a few steps in. He slowly walked to the front of the crowd. Everyone's eyes were on him. Lu Shu never thought that a day like this would come, when so many people came to listen to him teach. He was very excited. Although the profession of a teacher was looked down upon in recent years, Lu Shu felt that the passing down of knowledge was very important. Without teachers to impart knowledge, what would happen to the culture of the human race? Everyone was waiting for Lu Shu to open his mouth and teach. They wanted to hear Lu Shu's combat experience. It may prove useful one day on the battlefield. But at this moment, Lu Shu looked down and started to type on his phone. The students started to discuss among themselves. What is he doing? He's not taking attendance, is he? Probably not. The lesson would be over once he's done marking attendance. Suddenly, someone shouted in surprise. Lord Lu has posted something. Everyone was dumbfounded. What was this? Everyone was attending lessons. Why did you post something? Everyone hurriedly looked at their phones. Those who did not become Lu Shu's friend looked at the phones of the people beside them. They were still rather upset that they could not be his friend. How nice it would be if they were able to see Lord Lu's posts. They wanted to be the first to receive information, and not rely on secondary sources of information like now. They looked through their timeline and were shocked. They tapped to reveal the full post. Do you want to shower with me? In the sea of knowledge? From Lu Li's distress, plus 131. From Chen Zhuan's. From. Everyone gasped in shock. What, you must be crazy. Brother, 10,000 people have come to listen to your lesson. Are you really going to seduce people now? The people who had envied those who were added as friends returned to their seats. The students beside them calmly looked at them. Do you want to be his friend instead? No thanks. He waved his hand. I'm good. Suddenly, Chen Zhuan commented, I want to see you shower. Chang Qiuqiao gasped in shock. Brother Zhuan, even the gods cannot save you. Lu Shu looked up and glanced at Chen Zhuan. Suddenly, he said, we will begin the lesson now. I would like to invite Chen Zhuan to demonstrate an attack. Chen Zhuan felt goosebumps forming. He really did not want to go. But with Lu Shu smiling at him, he did not dare to avoid him. The fatty forced himself to go up and stand beside Lu Shu. Lu Shu slapped the back of his head and said to everyone, the enemy will usually not come up to you like that. You cannot be merciful on the battlefield. The mercy of others will become your suffering. Don't try and be a saint. Has a saint ever gone on the battlefield? If he did, he would be dead a long time ago. From Chen Zhuan's distress, plus 666. What was this retaliation? Chen Zhuan's expression darkened. No one spoke. Lu Shu's words made sense, but, you evidently just wanted to hit him. Chang Qiuqiao could not control his laughter. Lu Shu looked at him. Chang Qiuqiao, come up here. Chang Qiuqiao slowly walked towards Lu Shu. Chen Zhuan was very happy.
Ha!
Time for me to gloat over your misfortune. It was best to have someone to share the same fate as you during times like this. Chen Zhuan had thought about why he often acted dead, but he could not control himself. But it was fine now. At least he could share some of the stress with Chang Qiuqiao. Lu Shu suddenly said to Chang Qiuqiao, come, punch Chen Zhuan. Chen Zhuan was dumbstruck. From Chen Zhuan's distress, plus 666. Why do you want to hit me? Chen Zhuan held his neck. His face was red with anger. Shouldn't you hit him? The students looked at Lu Shu and the rest joking around. Everyone knew that you had to be close enough to joke around with your friends. There were very few people in the species research specialization, but they were very close to one another. After the initial commotion, Lu Shu officially started his lesson. He looked at the 10,000 students and suddenly said calmly, perhaps there are many of you who want to go into battle. But most of you have not experienced the battlefield. The cruelty of the battlefield is much worse than you expect. So you must be very sure of what you will face. I was not joking around with you just now. You absolutely cannot be merciful on the battlefield. Your foolishness will become your cause of death. Lu Shu did not teach actual combat strategies. He could not teach them all his techniques. He could not teach moves from the Hall of Swords or Celestial Map. What he could teach was the attitude they needed on the battlefield. Lu Shu talked about what he had experienced in the Beimang remains. He talked about the greenhouse flowers he had encountered, as well as how his mentality changed after seeing the skeleton horseman. He even talked about his battles with Cheng Henyu, a foreign agent. Of course, he talked about how he discovered his status as a spy because of a signal flare. At the same time, he talked about how the spy was willing to sacrifice his own life. Lu Shu talked about the lives that had been lost to tell the students that if they wanted to go into battle, they had to be ready to lose their lives. He did not preach. Instead, he used his experience to teach everyone. He even talked about the change in his mentality in the form of a story. All the students were engrossed in his storytelling. Mr. Hu Xiaoyan, who had been listening by the side, smiled. Although he has not taught any strategies, he has a good approach. His storytelling skills are not bad. Maybe even better than mine. He turned and walked back to the staff room. As he left, he heard Lu Shu's calm voice. In a battle, the most important weapon is not your wisdom, nor the sword in your hand. It is the determination to walk forward. Hu Xiaoyan stopped and smiled. In the past, he had thought that even in the magically rich era, their wisdom was very valuable. Thus, it took 3 tries before Nie Ting successfully invited him out of the mountains. This was their pride as scholars. But now, Hu Xiaoyan could see a new generation being formed. It was an unprecedented generation that was full of vitality. He had to redo his lesson plans. They would welcome the oncoming great battle with this new attitude. Chapter 778, Sorry to disturb you, I will take my leave. As Lu Shu was teaching, a student suddenly raised his hand. Teacher, were you nervous when you killed someone for the first time? Everyone had started to naturally call Lu Shu teacher. This meant that the students had started to acknowledge him. No matter whether the students still doubted Lu Shu's identity as a teacher, or whether Lu Shu would be able to deliver high-quality lessons in the future, everyone now felt that what Lu Shu was teaching was still acceptable. Of course. Lu Shu thought about it and said, the first person who I killed was the spy called Cheng Hengyue. That night, I sat at the Beimeng remains and thought about it. I only understood in the morning that once you encountered an enemy, you would die if he did not. Back then, I did not think about killing people. Why did I kill him? But later on, I realized that no one can escape by sheer luck in this era. Lu Xiaoyu silently listened to him. After he had returned from the Beimeng remains, he had allowed her to train and even participate in battles. He even brought her along to the Salt Lake remains. Back then, when Lu Shu had told her that no one could escape by sheer luck in this era, Lu Xiaoyu did not pay much attention to it. But thinking about it now, Lu Shu was probably worried that Lu Xiaoyu did not have the ability to deal with this era. Thus, he had made the painful decision to expose her to battles. But Lu Xiaoyu did not care much about it. Lu Shu had been too worried. For some reason, it was as if she was not repelled by this. She was ready to fight for Lu Shu at any time. Lu Shu was about to end the lesson when suddenly, a female student raised her hand and asked, Teacher, do you have a girlfriend? Did you have a girlfriend in the past? How long have you been single for? Lu Shu was dumbfounded. How long I've been single for? It's as if you're asking for my age. The students laughed. What was this model answer? But there were times when the teacher's humor could help the students to form a favorable impression of the teacher. Lu Shu's first lesson was over. This was his first time as a teacher. He did not know whether he had taught well. But the moment the lesson ended, everyone applauded him. The applause was not particularly loud. He had not reached the point where everyone revered him. He did not have the qualities that made everyone fall for and kneel down to him. But this was a sign of acknowledgement and approval from the students. Suddenly, 2 quotes started to trend on the forum. Everyone was talking about Lu Shu's lesson. The first quote was, "Has a saint ever gone on the battlefield? If he did, he would be dead a long time ago." The second quote was, "In a battle, the most important weapon is not your wisdom, nor the sword in your hand. It is the determination to walk forward." Suddenly, many students changed their biographies to these quotes. They hoped that one day, they would be able to step on the battlefield and have the same determination that Lu Shu had. On the other hand, Coral sat among the crowd and looked at Lu Shu with stars in her eyes. That was the person who she liked. This young man was teaching a crowd of 10,000 students. He was also a bright star in the night sky. But now, she was rather worried. A teacher-student relationship could not be allowed. It was taboo both overseas and in China. A group of students was discussing their views about today's lesson. The most common comment was, "If I were to enter the battlefield with Lord Lu, I will definitely." While everyone was still very excited, everyone suddenly realized that Lu Shu had uploaded a new post. Courage is knowing that you will lose even before you begin, yet you still go for it. No matter what, you will persevere till the end. You will rarely win, but there will also be times that you will win. Everyone who saw the post was dumbfounded. Why did Lord Lu suddenly become so serious? Was he working to be worthy of the name of a teacher? His words sounded logical. They saw Lu Shu upload another post. Some common sense. If revenge breed revenge, will there ever be an end to it? Thus, I suggest that if you have any grudges, kill that person in one blow. Everyone gasped in shock. Was this really common sense? Lu Shu alternated between chicken soup and common sense posts. No one knew whether they should block him. He had taken great pains to build his image as a teacher, but it all collapsed with a crash. On the other hand, Lu Shu felt as if he had finally found a platform to share his wisdom. Now, his greatest obstacle was the limit on the number of friends he could have. Lu Shu felt that he had to create another account and add the remaining people as friends. This way, the students would not miss out on his wisdom. They would be able to avoid detours on the path of life. Suddenly, he received a notification. He remembered this ID. It was a merchant on Weibo. Back then, Lu Shu had added merchants as friends to earn distress points. But Lu Shu could not understand. Why did a merchant message him? He opened the message. The merchant said, "You post so many trivial things. I don't even post as much as you even though I'm a merchant. Let's remove each other. Goodbye." Lu Shu's expression darkened. What was this? Lu Shu wanted to find this merchant. He could not take this anymore. At night, Lu Shu uploaded posts as he scrolled through the Cultivation College forum. He wanted to see how everyone had praised his lesson. Little Fury took its small bag and secretly walked out. Lu Shu looked up and glanced at it. "Are you done with your homework? Are you going out to play?" Little Fury quickly wrote, I finished it. Okay. Go." Lu Shu looked down at his phone. "It's a mess outside. Come back after 10 minutes. From Little Fury's distress, plus 299. 10 minutes was not enough. Also, no matter how much of a mess it was outside, could it be more dangerous than back home? But Little Fury did not talk back. It had a motive tonight. It hurriedly ran towards the apartment where Coral was living in. Little Fury secretly squatted beside the foot of the wall. It activated its ability to control dreams. A dim purple light shone from the purple tuft of hair on its head. But Little Fury seemed to have run into an obstacle. Its ability to control dreams did not seem to work on its target. To be honest, Little Fury was not planning anything. It had just heard that this girl had lost her memory. It wanted to see whether it was real. But it did not expect that her willpower was so strong that it could not enter her dreams or put her to sleep. Suddenly, she let her guard down and allowed Little Fury to enter her dreams. Little Fury looked at the girl in front of it in her dream. She did not seem to have been affected. She was awake and smiling at it. Little Fury knew that it had been seen through. It tried to act dumb. "Sis, do you want to buy digital coins?" Coral was dumbfounded. What do digital coins do? It can make you stronger. Little Fury proclaimed with a serious tone. Coral thought about it. Then I'll take 20 million. Little Fury was dumbfounded. It had never met such a headstrong person in Dreamland. I don't have so many digital coins. Sorry to disturb you. I will take my leave. Little Fury realized that it could end this dream. Coral laughed softly. Don't leave so quickly. Are you the squirrel in Teacher Lu's home? Can I ask you a few questions? Chapter 779, Global Crisis. The capital, Lingjing Lane. Shi Xuejin sat beside Nieting. Nieting closed his eyes to rest. He was stabilizing his class. He could now live normally. But once he gathered magical energy, it would create a conflict with the rules of the world. This was something he did not expect. I don't know when my house will be done either. Shi Xuejin said sadly, the foundation was only done yesterday. I had to hire a master to redesign the courtyard. I had to find professional supervisors and construction workers as well. It was not cheap. You may not know, but the price of construction materials have increased recently. Nieting closed his eyes. His eyelids twitched, but did not speak. 2 hours later, Nieting suddenly said, shouldn't you be supervising the works at Luhai Lane? I'm here to settle the bill with you. If not, what will I do if you destroy the courtyard again in the future? Shi Xuejin said, let me tell you, I've thought about it. We can make this room smaller. Nieting said, who do you think sent the message to all the large organizations? Why did all the heavenly kings receive the same message? Even large organizations overseas received it too. The message said that the secret behind the ancient Yi clan is in the Changbai Mountains. Shi Xuejin was dumbfounded. I don't know, let's talk about the layout of the master bedroom. Nieting expressionlessly looked at Shi Xuejin. Shi Xuejin slowly lowered his voice. The one behind this said that the secret behind the ancient Yi clan can be found in the Changbai Mountains. Is there a possibility that this is nonsense? Is the mastermind targeting the person in the Changbai Mountains? Not possible. The sword formation has not moved, which means that no one has entered. No one knows what exactly is inside either, said Nieting. This conspiracy is too sudden. No one has understood what is going on. Then we shall quietly observe. Shi Xuejin said, what if you are being targeted? After all, Nieting was officially recognized as the strongest expert in the realm of cultivation. The other large organizations dreaded him. If they were not able to advance to Shinsongjing in this period of time, working together to get rid of Nieting might be their best option. But the problem was, how many Class A's did they need to kill a Shinsongjing? The large organizations were probably aware of the reality. Unless someone is certain that you can no longer attack, thus they are no longer paying attention to you. If not, how can you stand others entering the country and into the Changbai Mountains with your personality? Nieting furrowed his eyebrows. The puppet masters. The puppet masters were from the exiled land. From the information that they had, the strength of the exiled land was greater than that of Earth. Thus, they had guessed that the puppet masters were protecting the stability of Earth, because they knew what would happen if it cracked. But the puppet masters probably knew more than this. For example, they might know that the Shinsongjing on Earth were in an awkward position where they could not attack. If the puppet masters were behind this, they had to be on the alert. After all, no one knew what they were scheming. To kill Li Xianyi? It was possible, as they said that the secrets behind the ancient Yi clan would be revealed. The Golden Foundation would be the most interested to find out. To kill Nieting? It was possible as well. Increase our levels of preparation, said Nieting. If they are willing to act recklessly within our borders, they have to be prepared to die. Wait. Shi Xuejin was suddenly dumbfounded. You aren't thinking about making a move, right? Do not do that. We still have a long way ahead of us. Link up with that old man. Niating shook his head. He did not directly answer the question. Instead, he changed the subject. Tell that old man not to break through first. The Heavenly Network still needs his Class A combat power. This might delay his progress. After all, we are asking him to stagnate. But after this crisis is over, the Heavenly Network will do its best to help him advance. I hope that he will understand. Sure, Xuejin sighed. He told me yesterday that he was willing to stagnate. There is no harm in protecting the Heavenly Network for another 60 years. These 60 years will be the end of his lifespan. If Chen Bailey also advanced to Shinsongjing, the Heavenly Network would lack strong combat power. But Chen Bailey did not mind. He was willing to stagnate and continue to protect the Heavenly Network. But there was another problem. He had advanced to Class A in his older years. If he had not advanced, there was a possibility that he would die immediately. His advancement to Class A added another 60 years to his lifespan. But if they continued to delay, no one knew whether he would still be able to advance to Shinsongjing. This was a crucial decision. Faced with the more desirable choice of advancing to Shinsongjing, Chen Bailey chose the other option. He doesn't want us to be too worried. He doesn't want us to take offense as well. He thinks that Shinsongjing is not pleasing to the eye when compared to the classes ABDEF. Since we need him now, he is fine with staying a Class A, sure Xuejin sighed. Yesterday, he suddenly told me that since we're all going to die, what can be better than dying for your country? Niating looked at Sure Xuejin. What did you say? Sure Xuejin said, I said, Sugoi won, then he told me to stop praising him in Japanese. Niating and Sure Xuejin did not know that Lu Shu had also received the same message. But as everyone was ready to go to the Changbai Mountains, Lu Shu did not even plan to go there. It was obviously a trap. He, Lu Xiaoshu, would not fall for it. Lu Shu turned off his phone and was about to start singing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star when he saw Little Fury walking back dejectedly. Lu Shu was curious. I told you to play for only 10 minutes, but you've been out for an hour. What happened? Little Fury drooped its head. It looked very sad and did not reply Lu Shu. Lu Shu felt that something was not right. Little Fury had never shown an expression like this. Did it get bullied outside? Lu Shu quickly asked, what happened to you? Little Fury wrote. I'm distressed. Lu Shu was dumbfounded. Why? This is my first time not having enough digital coins in stock. I will never be able to recover from this. Little Fury wrote. Lu Shu was dumbfounded. Then, his expression darkened. So you dare to change your tone now, huh? Little Fury did not reveal what Coral asked it. Lu Shu also did not know that Little Fury had appeared in Coral's dreams. This was a secret between Coral and Little Fury. No one else would know what they had talked about. Chapter 780, Luotian List. Lu Shu suddenly felt as if he had reached a new stage in life. In the past, he had nothing to do every day except to wait for lessons. Lu Xiaoyu looked on helplessly as she saw Lu Shu preparing for lessons instead of singing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Lu Shu knew that there were times in your life when everyone liked you. But when you reached the next stage of life, people would start to hate you. However, Lu Shu felt that this was not important. From the beginning, he had always done what he thought was right. He had suddenly become a teacher. He even felt stressed when he uploaded posts. There were times when he pondered whether it would be inappropriate for him to post such things, but he still posted them anyway. This was a mysterious responsibility. Lu Shu knew that if one day he accepted the position of Heavenly King, he would have to fight for that glory. It was the same now. Xiaoyu, Lu Shu called for Lu Xiaoyu. Do you think it's okay for me to talk about the Kochang Island remains tomorrow? I was thinking that I should talk about the secret practitioners and the large organizations separately. Then, I will talk about how the remains work. Lu Shu had even created notes for his lesson plan. He had listed down the details he wanted to talk about in his book. Lu Shu thought that Lu Xiaoyu would laugh at him and mock him, but she did not. Lu Xiaoyu took the book and read its contents carefully. After 30 minutes, she looked up and said, "The gargoyles indeed have low intelligence, but you cannot let them misunderstand that they can exploit their lack of intelligence to defeat them. Or you could tell them that the creatures in the remains may have higher intelligence in the future." Lu Shu nodded his head. Indeed. He wrote everything down. He had planned to talk about the Kochang Island remains over the course of 6 lessons. At first, he thought that he had nothing to talk about. But he realized that no matter whether it was the secret practitioners or the large organizations, he had a lot to analyze. For example, Aimee, who depended on others for a living, Meng Jingchan, who had the ambition to become stronger, and others who tried their luck. The students may run into them in the future. Of course, there were the large organizations as well. Furthermore, exploring remains was as dangerous as walking on a steel wire. Some overseas organizations may not agree with Lu Shu. They felt that they were just walking on a steel wire. If they were not careful, they would fall into an endless abyss. But Lu Shu was doing acrobatics on the steel wire and had no respect for the wire. Lu Shu suddenly thought of something. Why hasn't the species research specialization teacher arrived? Lu Xiaoyu rolled her eyes. How would I know? Chen Zuan and Cheng Qiuqiao were having fun. They were very free, while everyone else attended their elective lessons. Chao Qingxi read her book. Lu Xiaoyu was not interested in talking to them. In the past, someone had said that it was impossible to recognize everyone in school. After all, their lessons were different, and they lived in different places. School life outside lessons was still dull in the cultivation college. There was no way to recognize everyone. Beauty lists and ability lists were the topic of discussion. Everyone said that these things were simply jokes and were impossible to create as no one had the time to do them. But they had made a wrong judgment. Chen Zuan and Cheng Qiuqiao were very free. To the two of them, the ability list was not important. Lord Lu was officially recognized as the strongest, while Chao Qingxi was second. Was there a need to rank the others? No. They were more interested in the beauty list. Chen Zuan had derived gain by misfortune at the Kunlun Mountains. He was full from the magical liquid. At first, he had wanted to train and digest the liquid quickly, but it was of no use. He could only slowly digest. They had returned from the Kunlun Mountains half a month ago, but he had only digested 1/3 of it. According to Lu Shu's calculations, Chen Zuan could use the liquid to advance to Class B. Cheng Qiuqiao was very envious. After all, who did not want to advance to Class B? At this rate, Cheng Qiuqiao would need at least half a year to advance to Class B. This was the average rate of progress for class aptitude geniuses. Perhaps there would be an influx of Class Bs in the Heavenly Network 6 months later. Chen Zuan had been forced by Lu Shu to train. He did not have Class A aptitude, but now, the latecomer had surpassed his predecessors. Brother Zuan, said Cheng Qiuqiao enviously. That magical liquid is too effective. Your rate of progress is about the same as mine now. You may even be able to surpass me in 2 days. If you are successful, you may even advance to Class B in half a month. Does Brother Shu still have the magical liquid? Chen Zuan looked at Cheng Qiuqiao. We are brothers. We will go through thick and thin together. I still have 2/3 of the liquid in my stomach. Do you want 1/3? Cheng Qiuqiao was so disgusted that he could not eat for 3 days. How disgusting. To be honest, Lu Shu did not expect a greedy eater like Chen Zuan to receive such decisive help in his lifetime. Thus, Lu Shu felt that there was no need for young people to talk about losing weight. What was that old saying, right? It is a blessing to be able to eat. While the species research specialization had no teacher, Chen Zuan and Cheng Qiuqiu visited every specialization. They actually summarized a list of beauties. Of course, they had to give it a good name. It was called the Luotian list. Number 1, Lu Xiaoyu. Number 2, Coral. Number 3, Chao Qingxi. When Lu Shu saw this list, he stared at them. You two have a strong urge to survive. It was a fact that Lu Xiaoyu and Coral were very pretty. But it was not realistic to say that none of the other students in the cultivation college could rival their beauty. There were still a few beautiful people in their batch. But in the end, Chao Qingxi was third. Chao Qingxi had good qualities, but she did not fit the traditional meaning of pretty. She did not care about this either. But what made Lu Xiaoyu surprised was that after the list was posted on the Cultivation College forum, there was an endless stream of distress points on Lu Xiaoyu's page. She only earned 10 or 20 distress points per person, but many people contributed to the points. The page was filled with feminine names. Lu Shu did not think that they envied her. They were simply complaining that they did not get on the list, while Lu Xiaoyu did. It was the kind that they would forget about after 1 second. But even then, Lu Xiaoyu could advance to Class B very soon.
What does it mean to be happy? 'Cause it looks like we all don't know. Glass half full or empty, then we just put 'em on the shelf. Try to look to the heavens.